Today in history, rock history book. I'm John Beaudin. Hope you're having a really nice day. I want to thank folks who come on and just hang out with us every single day. We don't catch you live a lot. We've noticed that the hits are usually after we've done it a live show. But because I like being on live, I like doing Today in History on live. As I mentioned every single day, it reminds me of being live on the radio, which I've done for 40 years. And I don't know, I just like being on live. So thank you for the folks we're going to get some of our homework out of the way. Thanks for the folks who are supporting us on Patreon or sending us donations on PayPal because we're buying a new computer, or else buying a t-shirt for Rock History Music, Rock History Canada, or Rock History Book, which is what this channel is, Today in History. So lots going on every single day, and I've noticed today that especially we have a Canadian channel, which a lot of you know. We have a few extra Canadian things that we're putting on today in rock history in Canada, which will start in about a month for people who are Canadian, who are interested in Canadian music and the history of Canadian music. So we're going to be doing that. But right now, this is our international channel. We go all over the globe for what could be happening in the world in rock. And if it's your birthday, as we say every single day, if it's your birthday, I would be curious too to find out what else is going on your birthday. So happy birthday to you if it is your birthday. And we start off with, here he is, Yosef Islam Cat Stevens, born in 1948. British singer, songwriter, Peace Train, Moonshadow, born in London, England. He dropped out of music for a lot of years because of his religion and decided to come back to it and has incorporated his old stage name, Yosef Islam, because his name was Stephen Dimitri Georgiou. That's his real name. So Cat Stevens was a stage name for him. So he's changed it like 1-2 times and now has changed it back to having an amalgamation of both names. But anyway, happy birthday to him. And we're glad he's still around. This beautiful lady, let me just make sure I can see what I'm putting on the screen here because sometimes I can't. This incredibly gorgeous lady who if I remember correctly, her real name is Karen. I talked to her on the phone years ago when I was trying to get some backing for a jazz station we were putting together in Vancouver. So she was backing another radio company. She tries to explain to me that she felt really sad about it. Her name is Leadon. A lot of you will know her. Leadon's her stage name. Born in 1962, Canadian rock known as the Metal Queen. Born in Belleville, Canada. That's where my mother-in-law is from. Happy birthday to her. Glad she's still around. Just imagine we have to say that now. A lot of people who are passing away way too young. It's insane. Here's a man who gave Elton John half of his name. It was Elton Dean and Long John Baldry, who, when you put a piece of Elton Dean's, hence the beginning, and Long John Baldry together, you get Elton John. And of course, played with Elton John. Elton John played with him, I should say, in the early part of his career. So UK singer Long John Baldry died of a chest infection. He probably was, I don't know if he was in Vancouver, but he lived in Vancouver for a heck of a lot of years. And what an unbelievable singer in the history of rock and roll. And another one, Canadian. Kenny Shields died on this day in 2017. He was born in 1947. He was the lead singer of the band Streetheart, one of my favorite Canadian bands. A little history with Streetheart. Paul Dean started Streetheart with Kenny Shields, and Paul Dean went on to create Loverboy, an even bigger band in Canadian history and international music. But I talked to Kenny on the phone maybe 2-3 years, asked me tomorrow, I'll say 4, I don't know. Before he died, he phoned me up and said, John, I got your message. I can't do an interview right now. A lot of things are going on. I think his mother might have been sick. But the weird thing is we talked for about an hour on the phone just about mutual friends and things happening in Canadian music. And I kind of thought that, well, we could have done an interview then, but he wasn't up to it. So it was cool but I at least he gave me an hour of his life just to talk about music and his history. And I wish we could have taped it, but anyway, he gave me an hour. Oh boy. Mayhem ensued after this. 1987. Big year in music, huh? Guns N' Roses. Their debut album, Appetite for Destruction, is released. Becomes the best-selling debut album of all time. Sold over 30 million copies. Yes, Mayhem. The band they were always imploding not only onto themselves, onto the music world. They were brilliant. They were perfect for the time. Unfortunately, they just got a lot of success, and they were young and kooky, and they lived the lifestyle of rock and roll. And they're still around too. So 1987. Do you remember? Did you have big hair? I had big hair. I had really long, big hair. I think a lot of people did. Speaking of big hair, before we knew her as Alanis Morissette in Jagged Little Pill, she was doing pop music and had a big sort of Afro thingamajiggy going on. An incredibly talented woman, another Canadian, 1996. Alanis Morissette started a second run at #1 on the UK charts with Jagged Little Pill, which stayed on the top of the charts for 8 weeks. Amazing performer. I just have so much respect for this lady. She's a very beautiful lady and incredibly smart and funny. 2014, that's a lot of red hair. Ed Sheeran was at #1 in the UK charts with X, his second studio album. The album peaked at #1 in 15 countries. The lead single was Sing. Amazing performer, and my wife loves him. I would never buy a Ed Sheeran album in a zillion gazillion years. It's just not my thing, but I can understand his talent. So there you go. Remember, if you ever want to join our Patreon, we have a lot of one-on-ones coming up. What we're going to do is, if you join our higher league of our Patreon, we're going to do one-on-one where we can basically talk to people who want to support us. So there you go. A lot of you might know this chap. Speaking of, we're glad he's still around. He's not, of course. Lost him a long time ago. 1967, Jimi Hendrix Experience. Played the first of 3 nights at the Cafe Au Go-Go in New York City. Look at that snarl on that face. What the? Anyway. I caught myself saying anyway a lot yesterday. I went, ooh, I didn't know. That's a crutch. As a broadcaster, we have to watch those kind of things. It's better to have a silence than to go, which I did a lot when I first got on here because I hadn't been on live in so many years. In 1969, the Beatles started work on John Lennon's Come Together at Abbey Road Studios. Look at that, eh? I still can't watch the Apple documentary on putting Let It Be together. It's just so hard on me to watch it. I don't know what it is because I knew it was the last thing and I'm such a big Beatles person. I don't know. It's hard for me to understand, but it's just very, very difficult. We just talked about this guy a few nights ago on our sister channel, where he said he's much more important than Drake and who's the other guy? The Weeknd. 1990, Pink Floyd's The Wall is performed. It's performed in Berlin, where the Berlin Wall used to stand. Charity concert. Led by, of course, Roger Waters, a lot of special guests, Joni Mitchell, Cyndi Lauper, the Scorpions, Sinead O'Connor, Bryan Adams. The band was there, Van Morrison, the Hooters, and others. It was a big show, and of course there was an album and a video for it as well. So a big thing in history for today. I'm having to watch all my little things here. Make sure I put the right pictures up. In 1989, while Milli Vanilli were performing in Bristol, Connecticut for Club MTV, they were performing the song Girl You Know It's True. And as we all know, it wasn't true that they sang on the album. And the Girl You Know It's, Girl You Know It's, Girl You Know It's, that's what was happening while they were singing. So they didn't know what to do. So the two guys basically scurried off stage and just with their tail between their legs. That must have been an awful experience, but they shouldn't have done it in the first place because they didn't really sing on the album. There you go. There's two guys who like each other. Oasis, the brothers. They played their first ever American show at New Music Seminar at Wetlands in New York City. And never been palsy-walsy, these two guys. Never, ever, ever. There's a lot of animosity between them. So that's why the band's not around anymore. Oh, I guess I had a picture of the Police, but it's gone. In 2008, the Police played the first of 2 nights at the Red Rocks Amphitheater in Morrison, Colorado. It's during the final leg of their 152-date world reunion. That was big. At the time, everyone said that would never happen, but it did. 2017, singer Justin Bieber was barred from performing in China by the Beijing Municipal Bureau of Culture, citing bad behavior. For a while there, we thought he was going off the rails, that somehow it was going to be, he wasn't going to be on the earth for a while. Some people thought that something really bad would happen to him. there's an ongoing thing that we talk about an awful lot when it comes to rock and roll. Is it's the hardest thing for someone to get, and you've heard me say this a million times. The hardest thing for someone to have done in their lives is for them to get everything they've ever wanted. That's why rock and rollers, I think that's why they look around and go, I'm not any happier. You got to work on your angst. You got to work on your stuff. I'm overstating the obvious. I realize that. But yeah, when you've got everything, every car you've ever wanted because you're so incredible. Oh, Keith Doxroot is on here. Hubba hubba. Oh, are you talking about Alanis Morissette? Keith. One of my best buddies. Keith, you got to come visit us. How you doing, A? I don't say A. Hi, John. Hi, Sue Bailey. Keith is the guy who emails me or texts me if someone dies, if something big happens. Keith is the main guy. Bar none of anybody else that we have on, he's the guy who lets me know what's going on in rock and roll when I'm putting together videos like today and yesterday. We're putting together Just Skunk Baxter because we talked to Jeff the second time for an hour and a half. First time for 30 minutes. And we're going to be doing that and more Jason Sheff today. It's just these ongoing long interviews that I happen to, I mean, if I have someone that I'm talking to for our sister channel, Rock History Music, if I have someone and they want to talk more, they say, and they'll always, sometimes you'll hear an artist during the interview, because Chase usually leaves that in, my son who edits our videos. They'll go, well, that's a long story. I'm going, no, tell me the long story. I don't mind. Because sometimes they think, well, you don't want to hear that story. You just want to get to whatever the latest thing is. And every single time I'll always go, no, I want to hear the story. Or, oh, next time, sometimes I'll go, next time we'll talk, I'll tell you that story. And I'll go, do you have time? Tell me the story now. So that's kind of what happened with Jason. Jason said, well, next time we talk, I'll tell you that story. That's how it started. And I went, do you have another interview? He said, no, remember, it's because we talked for 30 minutes. And there's a lot of real estate to cover with Jason, with Chicago and his new project, Generation Radio. I'll tell you the story one more time. I got to stop telling this story over and over again. We talked for half an hour and he said, oh, John, I've been waiting for, it's been a long time. I want to talk to you and I've got a lot of stuff to say. I said, well, you got another interview at the top of the hour? He says, yes. How long is it? Half an hour. And he says, well, let's talk after that if that's okay with you. I says, I'm done with interviews for today. Let's do it. So we talked for 2.5 hours. So it's a 3-hour interview with Jason Sheff. One of the nicest interviews I've ever done in my life. Like I felt like I knew the guy a little bit, and that's rare. That you get a lot of radio guys like me who go around saying, "Oh yeah, my pal." They're not your pal. They're sometimes a few people have ended up being my pal, but it's rare. So Keith says, "Us shucks." Keith, yeah, come on, visit us anytime. We'd love to see you. It's a little family we have here, but Keith, you're extra special. That's all I have to say. So anyway, thank you for everyone who supported us through our crazy month. And then we needed a computer. So thank you for people who donated on PayPal or bought a t-shirt or joined our Patreon. We appreciate that very much. So thank you. And if it's your birthday today, happy birthday. And those were the things that happened on your birthday. We lost some people, as we do every day. Many were born on this day, and a lot of stuff happens in rock and roll. We are preparing for the Canadian channel and Today in History. Right now, I'm going through every date for the Guess Who. So what I do is I pick, because there's not a lot of stuff online for Canada, for the Canadian channel. So what I do is I'll find a band. I'll find each member, past and present. I'll get their birthdays. Find out if anyone died, get their birthdays, start stacking them. When all their albums were released, when all the singles were released, and I saturate the band till I'm finished. Then I go to the next band. And then I go to like the top 100 Canadian albums. And I'm going to start doing that for this international one as well. Anyway, John Beaudin, gotta go on to do more editing for Jason and Just Skunk Baxter. There's, like I said, the term I love is a lot of real estate to cover. So, Dwayne. Hey, Dwayne, my friend from Edmonton. How you doing, man? Thanks for coming on. Appreciate that. We were just saying today that if we ever move outside of Eastern Canada, we will move probably to Edmonton. I haven't lived in Edmonton since 1989, but I don't think I want to go back to Calgary. And we can't afford to live in British Columbia, which is where Shannon's from. But we're pretty sure if we did move to the west again, we'd move to Edmonton. And Dwayne, we could hang. That's what we do. Anyway, feel like I know you, man. Thank you, everybody, for listening to Today in History. Take good care of yourself. Love you guys. And more tomorrow.